Imagine this for just a moment. A beautiful long stretch of white sandy beach, turquoise water, a soothing sound of the waves. You're lying on this beach on a tropical island. Wow, that was me back in 2008 when I started my 1-year sabbatical trip traveling in Southeast Asia. And I started on a very remote island in the Philippines. It took me forever to travel there. There were literally no tourists. So I'm lying on this beach, totally soaking up in this amazing atmosphere. And then I see a figure in the distance. Now, I didn't pay much attention because I was in a paradise. But then when I turned in that direction again, I saw the figure approaching. Oh, well, I didn't want to pay attention again. I soaked up in the atmosphere. And when I turned my head again, clearly this figure is heading in my direction. In fact, the figure starts to wave and he is approaching at a fast pace. So I'm looking in the direction and I'm able to already see that it's a male, not too young, not too old, and he's really tall and he is big, in fact pretty fat. And as he's approaching, I can see that he is tattooed all over. And I kind of looked at him with contempt in my eyes. And I wish I could just with my energy send him away, but hey, that figure was approaching fast and he was clearly heading in my direction. So before I knew it, the person stands in front of my face and he's like, "Hi, my name is Martin. How are you? What are you doing here? Where are you from?" So my attempt to energetically send him away clearly failed. I exchanged a few words with him, but clearly letting him know that I have absolutely no plans of making any social contact with this person. Yeah, I really wanted to be alone in my paradise, and he didn't look like a person that I would like to socialize with. Yeah, so after exchanging a few words, I decided to pick up my towel and just head away in the opposite direction. I wanted to get rid of him. Yeah, so I spent the rest of the day just walking around the remote beaches of the island, and then I went back into my wooden hut. And the next morning, I stood on the terrace of the wooden hut. It was such a beautiful morning. Again, I was reminded of the fact that I was in a tropical paradise. And whilst I'm in that mode, I hear, "Alena!" I'm like, oh my God. So I turn in the direction of the sound, and there is Martin coming out of the wooden hut, which was right next to mine, and again started to make conversation. So I very quickly cut him in mid-sentence, and I went back into my wooden hut only to think of what my strategy will be to get rid of this guy. I just did not want to have anything in common with him. Anyway, I did manage something. I managed to avoid him throughout the day, and I just enjoyed this tropical paradise to myself. One day later, I took a plane from this island to fly to another island, which was even more remote, and it was about 800 kilometers away. Yeah, so I take a plane. It took me forever to get to my destination, because as you can imagine, the infrastructure in the Philippines is not great. So finally I get into my hostel, I refresh, then I come out and I go into the shared space. And there's already a few other travelers talking, so I joined one of the tables and we started to have this conversation about traveling, about our future travel plans and when we're gonna go next in the Philippines. And we kind of agreed to organize a little trip together to go to the nearby caves. Yeah, so as we were in the middle of this passionate debate about our travels in the Philippines, the door opens wide and I hear, Alina! And there in the middle of the door stands Martin. And guess what? He marched directly towards our table. He actually grabbed one of the chairs from the nearby table to squeeze amongst us and to be at our table. So I was not impressed. In fact, I felt quite infuriated because he totally overshadowed the conversation. He interrupted all of this discussion and he started with his stories, with his jokes that I considered completely stupid. And honestly, I just felt completely sick by this guy. So I retreated back into my room. Anyway, in the meantime, in that shared space, plans were being made, and I only realized the next day when I was going to take a trip with this bunch of people that Martin came to join the trip. So there I was, stuck on a trip to some caves with Martin. Well, fortunately, there were quite a few people, so I managed to avoid Martin throughout the day. He always tried to make some kind of conversation with him, but I very quickly made it extremely clear to him that I have absolutely no interest in making any kind of conversation, any kind of interaction with him. Yeah. So, fast forwarding few days later, I traveled to the north of this very remote island to take a boat to yet another super remote location. That was a location from which diving boats were going to the sides of the wrecks, you know, the wrecks from the World War II. So I was planning to join one of these diving trips to see the wreck, and I was super excited about that. So I arranged a boat, or not for myself, but I arranged to join a group of people on a boat to this island. It was a journey of 8 hours. So I turn up at the pier to take my boat. I jump on the boat. There were a few other travelers in there. So again, we have a conversation. All of us were actually heading in that same direction, planning to take the diving trip. And just before the boat was about to leave, I hear, Alina! And guess what? A huge backpack lands on the bottom of this small boat that we were about to take, and Martin jumps in. He booked himself on the same boat. So I thought, oh my God, why is this happening to me? I mean, do I really need to be in the presence of this person? Look at him. He looks funny. He looks like a peasant. He's got these wild gestures. He's got a funny face. He's tattooed all over. And you know, I had all these thoughts in my head that he is not the sort of person that I want to have around, that I want to spend my time with. And there I was on a small boat about to take an 8-hour trip along with Martin. So anyway, again, I tried to talk to other people, but Martin was always there trying to make some jokes with me, and I kind of started to listen to him a little bit. I started to see that he had a bit of a humor in him, so I laughed a little bit, but still, I was not extremely excited being in his presence. So listen to this. We land on this island, and we land at the pier, and there was one hostel nearby. And so all of us were heading in the direction of the hostel in order to get some rooms. So vast majority of the people, they got accommodation, but 3 of us stayed behind. Myself, Martin, and one other person. So the personnel of this hostel referred us to another place where possibly we could get some accommodation. So we went there, and they told us, yes, sure, if you're okay sharing a room, we can get another bed and the 3 of you can fit in. Okay. So, by that time, I kind of gave up completely. I was stuck with a person that I had no interest in whatsoever. It was not the type of person that I would choose to spend my time with, but I was stuck. I was about to sleep like few meters away from him. So I gave up completely. I gave up my resistance, and I just thought, okay, I will live with this person for a while. I will have to cope. So we did start to communicate a little bit more. Again, I started to see that he was not as awful as I imagined him to be in my head. And the day went by, and the next morning we went to the diving site. It was our first diving trip together, and no surprise, Martin was assigned as my diving buddy. All right? So I thought, if there is such a thing as a universe, and if there is such a thing as being given lessons by the universe, I am definitely being given a lesson by the universe. I'm stuck with Martin. We jump on the diving boat, which took us to the diving location. And let me tell you, the weather got really, really bad. We saw storms from the distance, the sea started to get really choppy, and I started to feel really sick. And also I knew that I was about to do a dive that I was not entirely comfortable with. I am not such an experienced diver, and we were about to dive into 30 meters to see the wreck. Yeah, and even if it was a beautiful sunny day, I would feel a little bit uneasy about it. And imagine, the day was horrible, the sea was really rough, and we were about to jump in the water. So I did not feel good. I was very low profile on the boat, and somehow Martin felt there was something happening to me, and he came to me and, Alena, are you okay? Can I bring you a glass of water? Yeah, I know the sea is a bit rough. Can I help you somehow? And he really was very caring, and he held me by my hand, and he said, look, I'm going to take care of you. Do not worry. So if it was up to me, listen, if I didn't pay the amount of money I paid for that diving trip, I would not do it, but I was already there. And so I thought I might as well do this trip, and let's hope that Martin will be a good diving buddy. So we jumped into the water. It was awful, absolutely awful. The waves everywhere. I felt like in the movie The Perfect Storm. I mean, it was awful. We started to go down, and there was no visibility. Can you imagine? So we're in the Philippine Sea. There are probably tons of sharks around you. There is a wreck somewhere down below, but you're going down and you have no idea where you are. You see nothing. It was just nerve-wracking. Yeah. So we were going down, 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 and at the end we could see something. Yeah, it was a little piece of something. Well, That was just a tiny little piece of the huge wreck lying on the seabed. So the diving instructor, he took us around the boat, and then he decided to, something that I didn't know, either I was not listening or he did not bother to communicate this to us, he decided to take us inside of the boat. Now, again, I repeat, I'm not an experienced diver, and I found it nerve-wracking. But I was there. I was part of the group, so I had to go along with it. But Martin, again, he felt my unease, and he was there. He took me by my hand. He was, constantly like gesturing to me. He's there for me. He will take care of me. And then we went inside of the boat, and they took us through extremely narrow passages. I don't know if you dive or if you dive wrecks, but sometimes you have to go through windows or through very, very narrow, very rusty passages. And I was already sick. I was already really nervous. And now I was in this really claustrophobic space, and I was worried that I was going to scratch, it was all rusty, it was horrible. And I felt that Martin, he was behind me. He took me by my legs, and he started to turn my body very, very slowly, making it easier for me to pass through the different holes, the different passages. I could just feel him all the time. He was so caring. He really wanted to make sure that I did not harm myself in any way, that I remained as calm as I was capable of being in that situation. So to cut the story short, the dive finished successfully. I didn't do any stupid thing that would endanger my life or anyone else's life. We finally emerged. And the first thing I did was I threw myself on Martin. I just grabbed him around his neck, and I said, "Oh my God, Martin, thank you so much. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you. It's only because of you I managed this really, really terrifying dive. I'm so thankful. And I also want to apologize to you because I was behaving as a brat. I was a real bitch. I rejected you, and I am so sorry." And I have to tell you that this experience shifted something in me, big time. And to this day, I am extremely grateful for what happened. You see, I realized that I was too quick to judge. I realized that I had all these preconceived ideas towards a person like Martin. And it completely stopped me from wanting to see more of the person. I didn't want to give Martin a chance. I had my own filters, and I jumped into my own conclusions. I made my own judgments, and I wanted to eliminate Martin from my life. I didn't want to be associated with a person that I labeled in a specific way. And through this experience, I was able to see beyond my biases, my preconceived ideas, and I was able to see how beautiful, kind, gentle, and loving this person that I completely condemned was. Why am I talking to you about this? I know that this story doesn't put a very good light on me, and that I'm coming out with all of these preconceived ideas that I had about fat, tattooed people. Remember, this was back in 2008. And nowadays, every second person uses their skin as a canvas to paint on. But back then, it wasn't so. And in my head, I associated, tattooed big guys with being low class, uneducated, just peasants. Plain peasants, right? And besides, Martin was fat. What an unhealthy guy. So I had all these associations in my head. So, the moral of the story. Nowadays, we see everywhere these efforts to promote diversity. And we know for a fact from all the research that is being done that diversity is the way to go. If you want to have an environment that innovates in order to succeed in the marketplace, you need to have diversity. You need to bring together people from diverse backgrounds, diverse ages, ethnicity groups, beliefs, views on things and the world. So diversity is key to success. But with my story, I also would like to say that diversity is difficult. It is difficult. We human beings, we find it very easy to resonate with people who are just like us, who look like us, who behave like us, who communicate the way we do, who have the same opinions, the same views on how things should be done. So we find it easy to interact with people like that, right? But someone who is radically different, who look differently, who have a funny accent, who just wear different clothes, who is completely different and who behaves in a completely different way to how we behave, we sometimes tend to treat them with suspicion, with distrust, and as you have seen in my case, with contempt. And that, I believe, is a tragedy, because if we let these preconceived ideas and these biases influence us, then these will be the obstacles to effective communication. These will be the obstacles to building deep connections with people, deep, meaningful relationships, and these will be obstacles to collaborating, to communicating, to learning about other people's perspectives that can enrich us, and to also giving the opportunity to these diverse people to learn from our own perspectives. So today, I'd love to encourage you to start thinking about yourself. If you really want to support all of these diversity efforts, we need to really turn the focus on us and what is happening in our interior, what kind of stereotypes, what kind of biases we hold towards people who are dramatically different to us. Let's put that focus on us. So today, I would love to challenge you, yeah? I would love you to think about your surroundings and the people in your surroundings, and think about the Martins in your surroundings. Those people who are dramatically different from you, yeah? And tell me, and this is just between the two of us, yeah, I'm not going to share it with anyone. Tell me, these Martins in your surroundings, do you give them a chance? Or just like me, Do you label them in a specific way and try to eliminate them from your life? Or if you can't eliminate them because you will bump into them in your workplace, you at least try to just keep away and you don't trust them. You don't want to be influenced by them. Yeah? So, is that what you do? And if it is so, what if you could go beyond your own preconceived ideas and look at the person as a unique individual with something that you can learn from? You see, you are unique, and so is the person in front of you that you might try to eliminate from your life. So what if you could give them a chance? What if you could try to see their magic, their uniqueness? What if you could open up yourself and at least listen to what they have to say and seriously consider that rather than immediately filter their comments out? What if you could do that? I think, and I really want to believe, that you might get some surprises, just as I did get a major surprise from my experience, and till this date that experience lives with me and I feel it really strongly. And I actually keep in touch with Martin. He lives far away, so we don't have the chance to see each other, but I really think of him with so much love and respect, and I am so profoundly grateful that the universe has given me this really important lesson for my life. So I'm hoping that you might get the same surprises. So my dear friend, if you really want to contribute to having a better atmosphere, if you want to support the diversity, having that bunch of people working together, people that come from different backgrounds, ethnicity groups, colors, races, etc., etc., please start with yourself, just as I had to do. So start looking at your own preconceived ideas, your own biases. Let's not judge the book by its covers, because there is always much more than what meets the eye. Feel free to share with me your experience. I will be super happy to hear it. And otherwise, thank you for listening, and I'll speak with you in my next video.